Hi, everyone, and welcome to the first ever streamed episode of Suds with Buds, where we have a conversation amongst friends while having a few cold ones. I'm your host, Adam, and alongside me is my faithful co host, Brett. Brett, why don't you say hi to everyone and tell us what your drink of choice is tonight?
All right, what's up, everyone? For the first ever show, I thought I decided to go with something classic, so just sticking with beer. But I'm watching my weight, so this is the Budweiser Select. It's like their Michelob Ultra, 55 calories, 1.9 carbs. So getting in shape for this.
It's a lot more in depth than I was going to go. My
Yeah,
drink tonight is the Minnesota born and raised Surly Brewery, where it's the Surly Hell Lager. They have a few different choices like Surly Furious, and that's an IPA. I'm not a big fan of IPAs, so I stick with the classics and I go lager, and it's definitely a great kick to it. So I have no problem drinking this anytime that I'm on air with this stuff. But all right, we're gonna just go ahead and hop into it. Uh, this is basically a life podcast. We just talk about anything that comes to mind, but we are big sports fans. And for those that don't know, Brett and I are actually related. I know we look totally different, but it is what it is. I look
yeah,
like our
it's hard to
dad. He
believe.
looks adopted. But
I look like the milk.
but with that said, like we're both huge sports fans, and so as much as we try to diversify our conversations, I'm sure there's gonna be a heavy slant, sports slant to most of these things. So buckle in, and hopefully you agree with some of our opinions. But so yeah, Brett, for
Or not.
starters,
Don't let anyone tell you your life.
how'd you do in fantasy football this week?
I had a surprisingly big win. Uh, well, all thanks to Tyreek Hill, essentially 128 points, and he got me a third of them. So, big shout out to Tyreek Hill. Glad I drafted him over Cooper Cup in the first round because I was going back and forth. But yeah, we're looking to keep this ball rolling and keep going undefeated.
Who are you going up against this week?
We got a big rivalry match between me and Armando this week. I was originally projected to win by a bit, but he had Jordan Addison playing. Addison had a big game, so it was a lot closer than expected at the beginning. But I'm confident. I'm confident in my team.
Nice. Do you know any projections already? Like, do you know who's projected to win yet or not yet?
Last I checked, I think I'm projected to win, but now by like about 1 point or so.
Oh, all right, nail biter. I like it.
Yeah, should be a close one. Should be a close one.
Yeah, fair enough. I squeaked out a win last week thanks to the absurd amount of low scoring games. And so I'm also 1 to 0, but I also have the fewest amount of points for any winner. So if the playoffs started now, I still wouldn't be in it. But I have a good matchup with our buddy Jeremy today, or this week, I should say. And he already had the Thursday night game work in his favor, so he has a pretty solid lead, as well as he's projected to win by about 5 or 6 points, I believe. He had both Justin Jefferson and Devontae Smith play for him, so he's already at 40 points, even though he's only played two people. So it's going to be a tough. It's going to be a tough comeback for me, but I'm holding in there. Have my guys going to give them a good rally speech tomorrow morning before their games, get them amped up, and see if we can get a good solid victory here. All right, Brett, we're going to move
Yeah,
over
yeah.
to everyone's favorite section. We're going to go to the Wheel of Destiny. For those that don't know, the Wheel of
Oh yeah.
Destiny is this little app I have on my iPad here. And we have 4 categories at the moment. Hopefully, in the future, we'll diversify and come up with some more. But the categories are life, hockey, NFL football, or fantasy football. And I'll have the guests, whether it be Brett or anyone else, pick and choose what category they want. And we'll let the wheel decide what question we ask. So, Brett, what category would you like?
Uh, let's stick with one of the only entertaining sports on right now. So let's go football.
All right, you going fantasy or NFL?
Let's go NFL.
NFL? All right, NFL it is. So we're going to go ahead and spin this bad boy, and we'll see what category or what question comes up. All right. So, Brett, for the first time listeners, which is everybody, Why don't you go ahead and tell them who your favorite team is and why they're your favorite team?
So I am a Arizona Cardinals fan. It's gonna be a rough year for us, but I've come to terms with it. Been a fan of theirs for a long time. Was always a fan of players like Kurt Warner and Larry Fitzgerald, more specifically Fitzgerald. It's a hard guy not to be a fan of. They're also the team that we like you and I. We go every year to with a bunch of buddies to a hockey football kind of like weekend getaway thing. Always a good time. So I have nothing but good memories about being in the. I think it's still the University of Phoenix Arena or Stadium now, or did they change it?
I think it's State Farm Stadium or something now.
Oh yeah, it is State Farm now. But yeah, I've only good memories about being like all my time spent at State Farm. So it'll be a rough year, but give us like 2 or 3 more years, and we'll be back in the mix.
All right. Yep. Fair enough. All right. So good start to the questions. Let's see what we got next here. All right. This seems like deja vu from our pre-show tryout last week. But is there anything that you want to see from your team this year? I know you said that it's going to be a rough year for the Cardinals and their fans, but what do you want to see from the team, both on the field or off the field?
So I guess on the field wise would be I'd like to see if they are moving on from Kyler or if they want to stick with Kyler. And I know there's a little bit of confusion with um, Caleb Williams. I believe that's the quarterback from USC.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he, I guess, has openly stated that he will not go to Arizona. So that kind of puts a damper on them moving away from Kyrie. But if I was in their shoes and Caleb Williams, and I generally thought like Caleb Williams would be our savior or a franchise quarterback, I would kind of look at which teams need a quarterback, trade Kyler to one of those teams when healthy, and mostly for picks and things like that. And I would dangle those picks in front of Caleb Williams, being like, all right, if we draft you, or who would we have to draft for you to come to us if we drafted you as well? You kind of use that as like a little bartering chip. So I'd like to see if they move on from Kyler or if they decide to keep Kyler and kind of build around him again.
Fair enough. And just to be clear, for that quote that you're talking about where he said that he didn't want to play for Arizona, he didn't say he didn't choose a team specifically. What his word was, and it wasn't even his, it was his dad that said everything. But what his dad said was if the draft order doesn't come out the way they want, then he could return to college next year.
That's
So
fair. Okay.
so it was never that he wouldn't play for Arizona. He could not want to play for Arizona. It is possible, but it could be a number of other teams. Like maybe he doesn't want to play for the Rams. Maybe he does because he's at USC, and so he sticks in Los Angeles by playing for the Rams. Like there's a lot of things that it could be. So I just want to put that out there where he didn't actually call out the Cardinals specifically, but with the Cardinals being a bad team, people are just piecing it together, thinking that that's what it meant. And it wasn't even him; it was his dad that said it.
Okay. But yeah.
All right. So we usually do minimum of 3 questions for the category just to get a flow going. And even though we have the Wheel of Fate, I do have one question I want to ask you about the Cardinals. So rather than spinning, I'm just going to go ahead and ask this one. So what it is that there are rumors, and everyone's heard all the rumors about Jonathan Taylor wanting to leave the Indianapolis Colts. And so yesterday or 2 days ago, there was a posting on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. I guess it is called X, but there was a tweet or post on there that showed the betting odds for the teams to trade for Jonathan Taylor. And I can't remember exactly, but the Cardinals were really high up on the list. So with that said, how would you feel about trading, whether it be draft capital or current players? How would you feel about trading for Jonathan Taylor at this current stage of the franchise?
I don't like that. No. More so because the like career length of running backs is so short because of all the hits that they take that I feel like getting a player like Jonathan Taylor, you'd be wasting a couple of years of his, and you'd be giving up draft capital or youth or potential future rebuild or long term success for something that, or for a player that would help now, but it isn't going to be the fix for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, he'll help the offense, but like the biggest thing is the Cardinals don't have any, like, or they have very little star caliber players on defense. So I mean, Jonathan Taylor could score 3 touchdowns a game and they would still lose 24-21, things like that. So I don't like that because I feel like long-term success would be more important. And then, yeah, just kind of building just a strong prospect pool, essentially. Or getting a lot of talented youthful players early or like right away rather than get somebody who's been around and kind of wasting some of your future.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree with that. Just to elaborate a little bit more on it, I also look at it as two things. Like the one thing that the Cardinals have going for them is they have James Conner. So, like,
Yeah.
yes, Jonathan Taylor is an upgrade. I'm not saying that. But like you said, the window for running backs to be that elite form is so small and they're so far away that it makes no sense, one, to trade draft picks away for him, but
Mm-hmm.
also with him on your roster, you are a better team. So you're down going from first, second, third overall pick to fourth, fifth, sixth, maybe seventh, depending on how good he does. But then, yeah, like you said, like it just seems like a waste because he could have 5 more good years, and by being on the Cardinals, you're going to waste 2 of them on a bad team at minimum,
Yeah.
and so it makes no sense. If anything, he should be sort of viewed as like that cherry on top, where you have this really good team, you have a good offensive line, you have Kyler or Caleb Williams or whoever else at quarterback to be able to lead the team, and then you get him to be able to just alleviate some of that pressure rather than him being the
Yeah.
focal point. Because there's nobody else, so they're just going to stack the box. He's going to get worn down, and he might end up getting injured and being like slowed down even quicker. So
Yeah.
I completely agree, but that, yeah, it sounds like we're on the same page on that. I just thought it was interesting that with them looking to rebuild, that the betting odds have them as like the first, second, or third highest odds to trade for him. And it was funny seeing the names that are around him. I can't remember the exact order, but the Cardinals were high up on the list, and then on the completely opposite end of the spectrum, but still high on the list, was the Buffalo Bills. Like it's so weird that you have two teams on two totally different parts of the spectrum in terms of their trying to win this year, and they're like numbers 2 and 3 in trading for them. If I remember correctly, I believe it was Baltimore 1, Cardinals 2, and Bills 3 for the betting odds.
Yeah. And I can see Baltimore, especially with the J.K. Dobbins injury right now, and they don't know exactly if it's going to be Justice Hill or Gus Edwards that kind of takes over.
Mm-hmm.
But to get somebody like Jonathan Taylor would kind of make up for that hole and then some. Yeah, it would definitely make more sense actually for those teams to give it up, but essentially just to the same extent of how you're bringing up, like he should be the cherry on top. He should be the one that separates you from a contender to being the champions. Like he should be the
Mm-hmm.
one that gives you that extra element, so that the opposing team doesn't know who to stop or how to play against you.
Yeah, exactly. You have the wide receivers and the quarterback to push the defense back so you can run the ball. And then on the opposite side, when they stack the line, you have the quarterback and the wide receivers to be able to pass the ball. And so you need that
Yeah,
balance. And right now, it just seems like a waste when you have 5, 6 years tops for this guy, and you're going to only get 2 or 3 of them at an actual value.
yeah,
But all right, yeah,
yeah.
no, that sounds like I said, it sounds like we're on the same page for that. But let's go ahead and keep moving forward. What would you like as your next category, sir? So you did NFL football. So we did
Uh,
fantasy football, hockey, which is basically NHL, or life.
Let's do NHL, the sport that I know the most about.
All right, let's do it.
Not saying I know a lot, but it's what I know the most about.
That's totally fair. All right, so question one. What is your favorite hockey memory? So I guess I said it was NHL, but this is really just full board hockey in terms of you playing, you coaching, you practicing, or NHL. What is your personal favorite memory from the sport of hockey?
Ooh. Um, I'm gonna go with this. This is probably sound really weird because probably a lot of people are like, "Oh, the first time I scored a goal," or like the first hockey game I ever went to. I'm gonna go with like our first, me, you, and Dad, our first ever Phoenix tournament win championship thing. Um, for those that weren't there or haven't heard the story by us yet, we played against a team in the first game. I was like, I think I've played in the tournament like 6 or 7 years at this point, and then we finished second like 3 times already. So like we were always we were there, but then like we couldn't finish the job. But in the first game of this tournament, we lost like 11-2. Got like blown out. Game wasn't really close. We ended up winning the other 2 games. They were both close games. So we had to face that same team again in the championship, and they had like 2 or 3 new ringers that we believe played for ASU's club team at the time because this was before their
Mhm.
NCAA. But that team they're like, oh, we blew these guys at 11-2 last time. We don't need to try so hard. So they all got shit faced the night before. Not saying we didn't, but we all universally got drunk, and we were just better at playing while hungover than they were. Had a very close, dramatic. I think it was 4-2 win. And that was also
I think it was closer than that. I think it was like 4-3. I think it was a one goaler.
yeah, it was something along those lines, like real close. It was also supposedly going to be our dad's last tournament because of his ankles and things like that.
Just so
Which we
everyone's
know,
clear, he said that for like 6 years in a row.
yeah, yeah. So it was good to kind of like win it and under the impression that like this was the last time the three of us were going to play in the tournament together. Um, but yeah, I'd say probably that skating around with a fake Stanley Cup and passing it around and all that stuff. I would say that's probably my favorite hockey memory at the moment. Yeah.
No, that's fair. The one thing I would say that might be better than that is what's better than winning a championship? Running it back the next year, which we did.
We technically were the 3 years in a row, but only because COVID shut it down.
Hey, man, we're the Toronto Blue Jays of the Arizona tournament.
We are. We really
Three,
are.
3 year defending champs, even though we only won the championship twice.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But no, and I that was a good one. I absolutely agree because I do felt like it was, or excuse me, I do feel like it was sort of like a weight lifted in a way. Like I know it's all for fun and stuff, but like you said,
Yeah.
we had been so close so many times, and we also knew that sort of the clock in a way was running out with Dad getting older and having those ankle issues and stuff. So it was
Yeah.
cool to finally have that because like I lucked out where I snuck into the tournament. Sorry, David Cohen. Hopefully you don't watch this. Um, I snuck into these tournaments since I was like 14. I lucked out that I could grow this beard at 14. Sure, it took me like 3 months to do it back then, but it, I did that and I would just hide in the locker room and Dad would bring the paperwork, have me sign it, and then I would play with him. And so I lucked out and with that because that was back when he was younger, as well as a lot of the guys that he skated with. And so those guys were, I don't want to sound rude, but those guys were a lot stronger back then. And so with that being the case, we went to Las Vegas. We played in that tournament, and we won that one when I was uh, 15 or 16. And then we won the Arizona tournament the very next year when I was like 16 or 17. And so I lucked out where had I waited till I was 18, I would have been waiting even longer than you, Brett, because I would have had 2 years on top of you. But so yeah, I lucked out about that. But so I agree with that. But I would say for me specifically, my personal favorite memory um, was for those that don't know, again, our family, I live in Minnesota now, but growing up, our family lived in the Palm Springs area in California. And the closest ice rink to us was an hour and a half away in Riverside, California. And so our parents basically put down a second mortgage on their house to be able to rent a old furniture building and create a small 3-on-3 ice rink. And we had that ice rink for 5-6 years, and then after that we expanded and moved to another building. Because this rink was small, where it was 3-on-3, we moved to another building that we could do the standard regulation hockey of 5-on-5. But I bring that up to say that when I was 13 or 14 was the first time I got to play in that Arizona Vegas tournament. But that same year, we also hosted a tournament at our ice rink in Cathedral City. And I got to play on the adult team, where we called it the adult team because that was where the really good adults played on. And because they're like the A League and the B League. So these were like the A-listers that were playing. And I got to play on their team. And I was basically a fill-in just to give people breathers and stuff, but still. And so we played in the tournament, and my favorite memory was one of the games in the tournament. We played against a bunch of guys that worked for Robbie Glantz skating. And so it was like, I don't know if you remember Brock and what was the name of the guy that
McKenna?
was the show? What's that?
Wasn't it McKenna?
No. Brock and McKenna are the brothers that are our age. Copus.
Yeah.
But no, Brock was one of the the Robbie Glantz instructors, like Bruce Busher and stuff.
Oh, I remember what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, so Brock was another one of those, and there's another guy, I can't remember his name, but he was like the showboater guy, where like he has like the YouTube video of him picking the puck up and like jumping over his stick and catching it, throwing it up and like batting it, going like bar down or whatever. And
His
so
name's
it's all
probably
these
Chad.
guys. Right. And so it's all those hot shots or whatever. And so we played against them. And it was a fun game. Like it was really competitive. I think we ended up winning with it being a small rink 3-on-3. I think the final score was like 13-11 or something like that. But it was really good hockey and everything. But the two things that stand out for me on that are two things. One, I remember that I scored a goal in that game somehow. I have no idea how, but it happened. And there was a lot of people at the rink watching. Like it was just family, friends, people that heard that there was a hockey tournament in town. They wanted to check it out. So I remember when I scored the goal, it was the loudest I've ever been a part of, where people were just like banging the glass and cheering and stuff. And I thought that was so cool because I was young and naive at like 13, 14 doing this whole thing. And then the other thing that always sticks out for me as well was that our grandfather, Papa Frank, he was there, and he's not a big hockey guy or anything. So it was just, he just decided to show up. And I just remember I scored the goal and I went over to high five my teammates on our bench, and our grandpa was just standing right there. And in my head, I don't know, that might have been the only game I've ever seen him watch me. So I thought that was so cool that he came to see me, and that I was able to score while he was there. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
But all right, good answers, Brett. So let's keep it going. Let's get another one. All right. So question number 2. Again, you can sort of do NHL or personal on this if you want. But
Okay.
in your opinion, what do you think makes a team successful?
Buying into your roles. It's something that is easier said than done. Can't say everyone, but most everyone wants to be the pretty much the clutch player, the guy put into like those tough scenarios, the one that the team can count on, the goal scorer at the end, or whoever makes the big play, saves the day. Everyone wants to be that guy.
Yeah, the go-to guy.
Yeah, but when you explain that type of role, normally people in their head think, I got to be the goal scorer. I got to be the guy who scores the game-winning goal. But there's so many different things that happen throughout the game, and this can go for all sports. That one of my favorite little like kind of cliche lines is that if you win the majority of the battles, you will win the game. And each battle is a split second. It could just be winning a puck battle. It could be blocking a shot. It could be making a big hit. It could be scoring that goal, making a simple chip out the glass play. Like those little things. And it just buying into your role. For myself, grew up thinking I was going to be a forward, wanted to score goals, wanted to be a stick handler, playmaker. That's what I wanted to be. But I'm very grateful for my coaches when I was 14, um, transitioning me to defense, and that kind of changed my game entirely.
Come on, Brett. Use their names.
I was
Give them a shout out.
all right. Thank you, Coach Gabe and Coach Josh.
There it
Big
is.
kudos to you. I never looked back after playing defense for you guys. Yeah, like the stories that I hear about them, like talking about the way that I play, um, really stuck with me. That I really bought into going from the goal scorer type player to I just wanted to be put into a situation where I could help the team win, which ended up being as a shutdown defenseman. And I didn't put up a lot of points, but I was out there and counted on a lot just to essentially stop the other team from putting up a lot of points. And it led to me going playing juniors in Arizona. Thanks again to Coach Rob and to the entire team over there for giving me the opportunity. Because like literally like a 3-day transition, we did an open tryout, got a phone call, packed my bags. 3 days later, I was on the team. And just playing defense. And it was like, so like buying into your role. If your coach sees something, and changes your position or it gives you a critique, it's not because he thinks you're bad. It's, hey, like you will do better in this role and you'll go further doing this role. So just having everyone buy into the various roles is what makes a team a championship winning team.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I mean, obviously, I think the other sort of cheesy answer is depth in terms of like you need a guy that would on other teams he'd be a first liner being on your second line or second liner being on your third line or whatever. But
Mm.
I definitely agree with that too. And honestly, like you said, it's not easy because I think you really do need some humility to be able to do that. Like to be able to not just accept your role, but also like to be able to have your coach tell you that and you actually listen rather than sort of getting angry at your coach and be like, oh, he clearly doesn't know what he's talking about or he doesn't know my style or whatever. Because I agree. Like growing up, you and I were like the two prototypical. Like you were the smaller, quicker forward, and I was like the big, burly defenseman, like the traditional stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And as we got older to like the higher levels, like you transitioned to being like a good skating, like sort of like a Nick Lidstrom type in terms of like the angling and on defense and stuff. Like you sort of broke away from the tradition, but you were effective in it. And then I flipped where I went from
Yeah,
defense to
I
being
was never
forward.
going to give you. I was never going to give you a big hit to change momentum, but I'll get in the way.
Right. And I was the same, but I was on defense where I would do the big hits, but then I got so addicted to them that I kept getting thrown out of position. I was like, ooh, I can knock this guy down. And so then I transitioned to forward, and they had me on wing, and that didn't work out because my brain still had defense, like being down low in the zone and stuff on defense. So they transitioned me to center, and I feel like that was a really big step in my career. But then not just that, but also like you said, everybody wants to be the guy. They want to be the one that scores the game-winning goal or makes that nice pass and stuff to set someone up for an empty netter. And with
Mm-hmm.
my how big I am, like it was frustrating for all my coaches to be like, dude, just go to the net. Just go and stand there, screen the goalie. And in my head, I was like, but if I'm standing there, like I'm not helping. Like if I'm just standing there doing nothing, then it becomes 5-on-4 because you're taking me out of it. And it took me a long time to realize that there's going to be a defenseman there trying to cover me. So one, that's two people screening the goalie, and two, it's still 4-on-4. Like it's still even numbers. And so it took a
Yeah.
long time for me to sort of rationalize that and be okay with it because I always wanted to be the guy. Like growing up, I had the big slap shot. And I always wanted to be the one to wind up for that sick one timer and go bar down on the goalie. And so it just sucked where like you see all these guys scoring the goals where I'm just standing there and maybe I get a tap in or maybe one deflects off my shin or whatever. But it just sort of
Mm-hmm.
was frustrating seeing these guys get all sort of the glory. But at the same time, like a win's a win's a win, right?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
But all right, so yeah, let's do one more. I mean, we can keep going for hockey if you want, but just whatever you want to do.
Let's see what all the categories have to offer.
All right, fair enough. So we'll do one more for hockey then. So we'll spin this bad boy and see what comes to fruition. All right. So, Brett, for this one, you're going to have to explain who your favorite team is. But the question in general is you are now the GM of the newest NHL team. Say it's an expansion team. Don't ask me how the 33 teams works. But you're the GM for the new expansion team for the NHL. And you get to select any one player from your favorite team. Who do you select and why do you select them?
Oh, huh. Okay. So I'm now the general manager of the Atlanta Re Thrashers because they're coming back.
I was just saying the
Um,
Wheaton, but yeah, that works too.
yeah, the Atlanta Re Thrashers. It's all the same color schemes and everything like that. So I am a San Jose Sharks fan. There's not a lot of players that I built the team around right now. Uh, actually, follow up question: does my player have to have played an NHL game yet?
We'll say yes because I don't know how many people are going to watch this show, and I don't know how in depth they know the rules. So we'll say
Yeah.
normal expansion draft rules.
Okay.
So from your actual club roster, and they have to be over 300 games played. I think it was. I can't remember exactly.
Okay. So the prospects of the Sharks are out. So no
Correct.
Bysted, no Smith, no Eklund, no Portillo.
Unfortunately for you, you don't get to choose any of the future.
Okay. Then, really easy answer is going to be the man, the myth, the legend, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. Do I still blame Dustin Brown for the knee to knee contact that really shut down that phenomenal rookie season? Absolutely. I do think that Dustin Brown is still the dirtiest player to ever play in the NHL. Come at me, Dustin. But no,
Hey, but
and no,
we respect you, okay?
yeah. But no. Dustin Brown is a great hockey player. Just the whole scenario is funny because I was like 12 when that happened. But yeah, I'd choose Thomas Hurdle, a guy that at times can seem like he's lazy, kind of like the Nylander from the Leafs, Kessel at times, like all these players that like they make it look effortless that you think that they just don't care. But then Hurdle himself will just randomly be like, you know what, I just want to go out and score a goal right now. And then you'll see him get the puck on his stick. He'll make a couple moves, make it again look effortless, and then just bury a goal. It's almost like he can do it on command. But I'd build around him solid 200 foot player, two-way player where you can rely on him in the defensive zone. You can put him on the power play. He'll score goals. He'll sacrifice the body. Um, I haven't had any like personal interactions with him, but he does gives off this like vibe of like leadership, and you can kind of just like follow him essentially. But yeah, I if I had to choose just one player from the Sharks to build around, it'd be Thomas Hurdle. Um, yeah, I just kind of wish would have been like a handful of years ago before because he is 30, turning 30, something along those lines.
Yeah, I think he's
Um,
28 or 29. Yeah.
yeah. So, still a great player, but if he would definitely be a very solid like cornerstone for a contending NHL team if like a few years ago. Because like look at the Sharks a few years ago when he was younger, they were in the playoffs and they made it to the finals and things like that. So yeah, I would no doubt about it go Thomas Hurdle as my draft pick there.
Yeah, not gonna lie. At least in my opinion, I feel like that was sort of a softball question because I feel like Thomas Hurdle is the obvious answer when it comes to the Sharks specifically. Because I
Yeah.
would 10 times out of 10, I would choose the exact same thing. The two things I would add on top of that about Hurdle are one, his versatility in the sense that he could play wing or center, and then
So
also
even at that older age, you can put him in a different position, and yeah.
right. Plus, or if you have depth somewhere and you need to fill a roster spot somewhere else, like if someone gets hurt or whatever, and you need someone to move up or down the lineup or whatever, he's a real elevator type player. He can play up and down the lineup.
Mhm.
But and then the other thing too is like you were saying, he has that sort of vibe or that air of leadership around him. Um, he also just sort of has that clutch factor. Like, he scores those OT goals, and he's not afraid. Basically, his game doesn't change regular season to playoffs or regulation to overtime. Like, if he sees that he's on his backhand and he wants to get a shot on his forehand, he will try to put the puck like between the defender's legs to go to his forehand side and take the shot, whether that's first minute of the first period or the last minute of overtime. Like, he's going to do that to get a better chance to score, to give his team a better chance to win. Where some people are scared to make those moves if they lose the puck and it goes the other way, where he doesn't seem to be afraid of that. And I bring that up because I chose him in the Bucci overtime challenge like 3 years ago or whenever it was, when the Sharks played the Golden Knights. And I called Thomas Hertl to score the OT winner. And he scored a shorthanded breakaway goal in double overtime. And I did not win. So, Bucci, you're on the naughty list for Christmas. I'm not going to forget that, because that was a ridiculous goal, and I thought I was the only person in the world that chose Thomas Hertl, even though I'm sure there was a million others.
Yeah.
But, all right, good answer. So that was the third question. You said you wanted to check out the other categories this time around, so I'll go ahead and let you choose. Would you like to go with fantasy football or life?
Let's go fantasy football, and we'll finish off with life.
All right, let's do it.
Wow, out of context, that sentence sounds very depressing.
Well, I was going to say, do you want to do fantasy football or real life? But all right, let's see what we get for the first fantasy football question. On your roster for your fantasy football team, I know you're in a couple leagues, so we'll just do the league of record that you and I are both know of. Which is
that is the only league I'm in this year, actually.
Oh, I thought you were in a couple. All right, never mind.
I bailed out of the rest.
Okay, so on your roster, what player are you most excited for? Or in other words, which player is the hardest for you to trade away?
Oh, well, I mean, how do you trade away Tyreek Hill after 40 points? Like, you can't. So he'd definitely be the hardest one for me. Him, and even though I almost did it, Jahmyr Gibbs. Those are the two that I'm most excited for to watch throughout the season. But kind of another player that I'm really like a little more likely to trade away if needed or something like that. Is Anthony Richardson. I'm pretty excited. I mean, I started Deshaun Watson last week. Turned out well for me. But there's just something like.
Would you say you had a happy ending?
Yes, Deshaun Watson got me, and we ended with a happy ending. But Anthony Richardson, I've always been very like, this is the first year I've ever actually drafted any rookies with Jahmyr Gibbs. I've always been very hesitant when it comes to that. Like, I always think like you got to have at least a year before you can kind of know what to expect from a player. So I would never go with rookies. Which ironically, with the 1 year that I won, was Kareem Hunt and Alvin Kamara's rookie year, I believe. And I auto drafted because I was out of town, and they auto drafted both of them for me, and like they couldn't have been happier. But yeah, so like now having Anthony Richardson after one very good week, he's also in like not the strongest of divisions, so I think it's going to kind of play into his favor. Also, without Jonathan Taylor there right now, gives him a lot more opportunity, a lot more fantasy value. So
just to run too, not just pass, but to run.
Exactly. So there's going to be designed runs for Anthony Richardson, which would essentially take away from Jonathan Taylor. So I like having Anthony Richardson. Tyreek Hill is going to be the hardest for me to trade away, and I'm excited to see what Gibbs has in store for the rest of the season as well.
Nice. Yeah, and what you're talking about for like the rookies, where you usually like wait a year. I sort of got burned on that because I was sort of the opposite when I first got into fantasy. Like one of the first few years, probably like 5 years into it, where I was still sort of gauging the different. I was learning more about it because it was just sort of a casual thing that me and my college friends did, rather than actually like pay attention to what I was doing. And I remember I took I took Christian McCaffrey in his rookie year, and he did nothing. And like he was the legit starter and everything. I think that may have been like Jonathan Taylor, or not Jonathan Taylor, excuse me, Jonathan Stewart or D'Angelo Williams' last year with the Carolina Panthers.
Oh,
And so I
yeah,
think he
yeah.
was sort of splitting it 50-50. I can't remember exactly, but I took him early thinking that young legs, like they say, they're taking the running back, you want to go young. So I took him and he did nothing. And so then the next year, I had like the 5th or 6th overall pick, and he was like right there for me to draft. And I was like, nope, I got burned last year. I'm not going to take him. And so I chose someone else. I can't remember who it was. And then he ended up just going off that year. And I'm just like, dang it. There's that young running that people say to go young. I should have just done it. And I'll
Yeah.
still remember. I'll still remember our buddy Asian. Well, I don't know if you know him, but my buddy Asian Steve from the Cali Connect League, he had the very pick after me, and I was just like, "Yeah, I can't take Christian McCaffrey. He burned me last year, so I chose whoever." And within 30 seconds, he was like, "Dude, I will happily take him." And he drafted him right then and there, and he blew up for him. I'll never forget that. I was like, "Dang it!"
Yeah.
So don't let
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
year affect you for future picks. There's your lesson right there.
Yeah.
All right, next question. How many trade negotiations are you currently in, and what are the deets on those trades?
I have currently been rejected on all of my trade negotiations, so I
So
have
no,
nothing
no
going on
pending
right
right
now.
now?
Yeah, I've got nothing pending at the moment. Um, Still looking for my wide receiver too. Still in the hunt, but yeah, I legitimately have no transactions in the works.
Fair enough, but
Somebody
you
won't
heard it
give up.
here first.
Somebody won't
Wide
give up
receiver
Elijah
2.
Moore.
Yeah, I don't know who would ever do that. Poor guy.
I also
Just
tried
like
getting
when,
T Higgins, and that was a no go as well. So
well, hopefully you didn't offer the same thing for T Higgins that you did for Elijah Moore.
no, it was two different things.
Reminds me
I'll
of
keep them in the wraps. Can be giving away my trade negotiations strategies.
that reminds me of the Survivor pool where some people chose Minnesota to beat Tampa Bay in week 1, and so they got knocked out. And I just, with me living in Minnesota, our buddy Ron uh, messaged the group chat. He's like, "God, Minnesota, like who would even want to live there?" And I just remember responding back like, "Yeah, boy, I'd hate to be that guy."
Yeah, yeah.
And then I
You guys
remember,
are
and then I
just
remembered $3 beers or $3 whiskey cokes.
yeah.
I went to Skinner's Pub. Shout out Skinner's Pub, Pub and Eatery in St. Paul, Minnesota. Went there, watched the Packers versus Bears game, full game. So 3 hours while I was there. I think it was like 6 whiskey cokes and potato skins to go. $25.
That's impressive.
Yes. So shout out to Skinner's. If you know, you know. All right, Brett. I don't really like that question. Sorry. Apparently, I'm the Wheel of Destiny today. All right, you sort of answered this one, but if you want to go a little bit more in depth, what position do you think you need to strengthen the most on your roster?
Oh, wide receiver easily. I don't get me wrong. I like my wide receivers. I do. But there are a
You
lot
just,
of
you just like wide receiver 1, 3, 4. You don't like number 2?
well, it's Mike Williams is my wide receiver too, and he's a good wide receiver. But I do put him in the category of boomer bust.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
He's
and if
basically Gabe Davis on
I
steroids.
yeah, and I'm a big. I like knowing kind of like the general floor of my players, so that if whatever my projected score is, I'll know I'll get somewhere around there, if not more. So I'm always more confident going into matchups when I'm like down 2 or 3 points because I know my players will reach their score and then probably get a little bit more. But I like Mike Williams. I'd rather play him flex wise with good matchups. So I'd like to get somebody who's a little more consistent, like day in and day out. Like I wanted Jordan Addison, that didn't work out. I think he's gonna be a good wide receiver too. Um, I mean,
Yeah,
but
he's been
on the
consistently
bright side,
scoring.
Tyreek Hill. Yeah, on the bright side, Tyreek Hill has proven he can be wide receiver 1 and 2 if needed. So yeah, definitely wide
Yeah,
receivers.
yeah, fair enough. I think for me it's definitely running back, and you can make the argument for either running back 2 or 3 because like my 2 running backs are Najee and Kenneth Walker. So like the
Mm-hmm.
upside, like you're talking about, those two are sort of total ends of the spectrum. Where Najee, I drafted in the sense that he was supposed to have a floor, where like I could at
Yeah,
least expect this. But then I went with
yeah,
Kenneth Walker for like the boom or bust in terms of like I could get this, and so I knew that it was boom or
yeah,
bust or whatever. But I was willing to take the chance. And after week 1, like he didn't have a good game in terms of the stats, but the whole freaking Seattle Seahawks didn't. So that's sort of a moot point. Um, but with that said, he heavily outcarried Zach Charbonnet, which makes me feel better because that just shows that they're leaning towards him, or at least they did for that game.
yeah.
But after that, uh, my next running back is well, you and I did the trade, so I have Jonathan Taylor on the PUP list on my IR. So
Yeah.
hopefully he comes back healthy, and that'll really help. And then I won't feel so bad about my running backs. But with him out, my RB3 is Antonio Gibson, and I do not feel comfortable with that whatsoever. I'm old school when it comes to fantasy football, where I love my running backs. I know that that's changed a lot over the last few years in terms of what the experts and everything say. So I tried to go wide receiver heavy this year, and it just feels so weird for me. Like I would rather have a third running back in that flex spot rather than a wide receiver, even though the experts and everything say that the wide receiver makes more sense. And so that's why I really want to push for a running back of some sort. But I'm
Yeah.
also trying to stay patient because the whole thing is I'm trying something new, and it's tough to only have 2 running backs when I do that. It's very
Yeah.
out of my
Yeah.
comfort zone. But all right, so that's the third question. Do you want to try another question for that, or do you want to skip over to life?
Let's do one more, then go to life.
One more, you got it. All right. So the final fantasy football question for this first ever airing of Suds with Buds is the same question we already asked you. So we're gonna try that again. All right. So we talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but go a little bit more in depth. How do you feel about your upcoming matchup with Senor Armando,
Uh,
the Congrexican, as some call him?
yes. I'm very confident going into it. Again, like I currently projected to win by like a point. I Other than Mike Williams and Joe Mixon, I'm pretty confident all of my guys will reach their numbers, if not pass them. Which gives me like a lot of confidence going in, thinking that I'm going to get a higher score, even, and I'm already projected to win. So I like those odds. I like that chance. Um, I was more confident going in before Thursday night, where Jordan Addison didn't put up almost double his projected points. But I like my chances. I like it, and I mean, if the Bengals figure it out and Mixon gets involved a little more, then I'll be sitting comfy.
Yep, that's totally fair. I can understand that. Like I said, in my matchup, I'm going up against Devonte Smith and JJ Justin Jefferson, and so the dude's played 2 guys, and he's already has 40 points,
Yeah,
or in your words, he has Tyreek Hill.
yeah.
But so that's a little bit
Pick that up.
intimidating. So that's a bit intimidating on my side, but I like to have hope in my guys that some of those guys could also blow up. So,
Mm.
but all right. So going to the life questions.
Actually,
All right.
before live question, just want to put on record that Armando, we are still on $10 for me to beat you, or vice versa. and another $10 that Jahmyr Gibbs goes for 20+ points this week in fantasy football. It's on record, and no takesy backsies.
All right, so now can we go to the live questions, or is there
Yes.
anything in the shoutouts? No. All right, cool.
Nope.
Right,
Nope.
So question number 1: if you pour milk into cereal, does that make it a soup, broth, or stew?
I'm gonna go with broth.
Would you like to elaborate
Yeah,
on why?
kinda. I don't know. So, in my opinion, milk into cereal. Soup is hot to me. Like I just associate hot, and I don't want my cereal hot.
How do you know?
And
Have you
then when
tried
it
it?
no, but there's just something about it. It's like I've never been shot, but I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna like it. Um, then when it comes to stew to me it's more of the meat and potatoes that are in it that make it a stew. It's not the milk part. So it's heavier. Stews are heavier to me. I've seen broths that aren't hot. You would mix broth into something and make it hot. So, in my head, milk into cereal is broth because the other two are either one's always hot in my head,
Well, I mean,
or
they're
the other one or the other one it's where it's more meat and potatoes.
no, that's fair. For me, I think the only question I have is what are they talking about in the question? Are they asking about the milk? Because if they're asking about the milk specifically, then the milk would be the broth. Same thing, like you're saying.
Yeah, yeah.
But if they're asking what does it make the bowl, like what's in the bowl, then I personally would change it to stew. Like I get what you're saying, and I agree because the stew is typically you said I can't remember the word you said, but like it's basically thicker,
Yeah.
and so I understand that,
I would say
but
it's heavier. It's heavier.
right. And so I agree with that, and that's the thing that sort of gives me a hesitation on it. But with that said, the you said like the meat and the potatoes. I just picture that as stuff floating in the moisture. So like the stuff that would be floating in the milk would be the cereal, where the stuff floating in the
Yeah.
stew was the meat and potatoes. So I would say in the bowl it's a stew, but the milk is the broth in the stew.
I see what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
All right, I think that's a good start to this one. I like it.
Yeah,
Being
yeah.
very introspective here.
Never know where we're gonna go with this one. Never know where we're gonna end up.
All right, so more philosophical here. What do you
Oh
want to be
no.
known for?
Oh. I want to be known as the person who has helped everyone become better at what they want to do. Not like that I'm gonna coach you or train you or anything like that, but more so like I want to be I want to be known for as the guy that like I wouldn't have ended up here at wherever in life positively. Let me positively ended up here, not homeless on the side of the streets, but uh, for those that like are following like really big aspirations and are hesitant, and I want to be known as a person that was like that gave them that extra nudge to follow like to become better at what they want to do, and eventually, if they can, take it as far as they can. Just because for me, like I mean, we've talked a lot about hockey. We grew up playing it. I do think I kind of gave up on my hockey career a little bit earlier than I should have. I do like there's so many different routes and stuff in sports that I could have probably taken if I wanted to keep playing and make a living from it. It wouldn't have been like a real lavish living, but because of that and me thinking that I kind of gave up on it a little bit early, I would like to be known as a guy that like helped people chase their dreams for as long as they can and until they actually like until they reach them essentially.
No, that's fair. And I would say for you, in terms of like the hockey career and stuff, I get where you're coming from. I felt sort of the same way on my end. Like I did the one tryout in Scotland when I was 18, and after that, I was just like, oh, well, I guess that's over with. Where looking back on it, I wish I pushed forward because I always had that doubt in my head where I never really knew how good or bad I was. And then as I got older and
Yeah,
I played against more people and stuff, I was like, dang, like they went this far with it and I didn't. And so that sort of
yeah,
hindsight sort of has always bugged me. So I get that. But in your case, like I understand that, but at the same time, like I don't want to say you had an excuse, but like just the injuries that you had and just the possibility of reoccurrence is a lot more compared to what other people would have to go through. Like a lot of people, like me, like I broke my foot and then my foot healed and I played, and I broke my arm and my arm healed and I played. And I separated my shoulder and my shoulder healed and I played. But like the injuries that you sustained and those things like your knee and everything always have that possibility, and they have reoccurred over the course of the years. And
yeah,
so I get what you're saying, but at the same time, like you do sort of have to find that middle ground, right? Like you don't want to overextend yourself, and then you have to have major surgery or have some crazy surgery that has to happen because you decide to keep pushing it. Like
yeah,
I don't know what would have happened from it, but just one of those things like 50-50, I guess.
yeah.
But all right, let's see what we got next.
No, you can't just
Life
ask me that kind of question and not answer it yourself. Go.
well, I sort of answered it, but like I like yours, but I definitely don't want to steal your answer. So with that said, I don't know the right word for this, but like I want to be known as someone with integrity, I guess, in the
Mhm.
sense that if I say I'm gonna if I tell someone I'm gonna do something, they know that I'm gonna do everything I can to do it for them, whatever it is. Like
Yeah,
if some if someone needs to get picked up from the airport, I will happily volunteer to go pick them up from the airport. If someone needs help with, like if Emery and Elizabeth need help with their schoolwork, I'm right there and they always call me to help with their schoolwork or whatever. Like I'm the one that if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to stick to it enough that they can count on me to actually do it or at least put in an effort. If I can't get whatever it is done, I at least tried to do it.
yeah,
And so I'm not going to say that I'm going to do everything in the sense that I know I can't do everything, but I'm always going to at least give it a chance. I'm always going to try to do it. All right. What do you need to stop doing to make space for bigger changes in your life?
working.
You
Like,
need to stop
not
working?
that I need to go not that I need to go unemployed. I need to stop working two jobs. I need to give myself more free time to dedicate towards the things that I want to kind of focus on. Essentially, like I've want like I have my I guess passion for music essentially, and that's always something that I kind of want to like. There's a big part of me that wants to go back to school, even though I just finished with physical therapy. I want to go back to school, but for like audio engineering or music production to see what I can do with that. But but I work a lot just because I've always been that way with the multiple jobs and things like that. Um, so I need to be more okay with less income, I guess, for now to make room for to give myself time to dedicate towards something that could make me potentially make me more money or at least make me more happy in the long run.
Yeah, fair enough. And as long as you can afford to take the less income, then I would definitely say go for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I move on to the next one, or do I have to answer that one as well?
I mean, you might as well. Your fans need to get to know you too, Adam.
Yeah, I'm just the host. You guys are the ones that get the fans. But
No, they tune into your show, and we are the guests on your show.
But I'd say for me, I feel like the easy answer is fast food. I gotta stop eating fast food. Multiple reasons. One, obviously, personal health and stuff. Like just with how much I eat, I know it's not healthy in terms of the amount of times I go out to eat, whether it be going to Skinner's or if I forget to make lunch for work and then I go to McDonald's or whatever for lunch and stuff.
Yeah.
So like just personal health in terms of like eating healthier and everything, I need to stop it. But also just saving money that way. Like groceries and everything are already so expensive. Like why
Yeah.
go spend $200 or whatever on groceries, $300 on groceries, just to have it sit in your fridge or whatever go bad because you're too lazy to cook it, and then you spend 10, 15, $20 at whatever fast food place instead of just cooking at home. Like, is the
Yeah.
half hour really worth the extra $20, $30? And then doing that multiple times, whether you do breakfast and lunch or lunch and dinner or whatever, like it adds up after a while. And so I'm sort of in that rough middle ground, I guess, right now, in the sense that like I'm trying to sell my house. So on the one hand, I want to try to keep the house as clean as possible. So I'll eat out like fast food and everything rather than cook because I don't want to have all the pots and pans and make the kitchen a mess. And but at the same time, I'm sure that's also partly just laziness in the sense that I'm lazy and I don't want to do dishes afterwards.
Yeah.
So just sort of that 50-50 thing. But I've been working on selling my house for almost like a month now. And I've had that in my head where I'm trying to keep it clean. And so I've been eating out a lot more than I was before. And like I feel fine. Like I'm not saying that I feel sick or anything like that, but I just know that it's gonna have an effect on my body as well as my bank account.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I feel like at the moment that's the easy or the obvious one. But all right, we're trying. We want to try to limit these things, or at least get them close to around an hour for these episodes, just because I know it's hard to listen to us blabber on for more than that. So if anyone actually
Yeah.
listens this far, way to freaking go! Like proud of you, love you. But since we're still getting the feel of things, I'd say let's do one more question from life, and then just sort of wrap up with some closing thoughts, and then we'll be good to go. Sound good to you?
Works for me. Yeah.
All right. So last question for life, and life has the most amount of questions compared to any other category, just so you know. So.
All right.
All right. This is the perfect one to end on. I love it. All right, Brett. What color would you choose if you had to eat a crayon straight out of the box?
Purple.
Why?
Purple. One, favorite color, purple. Two, grapes. Everything grape flavored is delicious, and everything that is grape flavored is purple. So, purple.
That's fair. I had a similar thought
Yes.
process where I was thinking yellow for banana.
But everyone are like, do you like the yellow Laffy Taffies? Those are banana flavored.
I like the Laffy Taffy that are yellow, yeah.
See, a lot of people argue that the yellow Laffy Taffy and the yellow Starburst are the worst.
Well, one's banana, one's lemon lime, or lemon. So I get what you're saying in terms of the color, but they're different flavors too.
Yeah, but still, yellow has been known as the worst.
Right.
Then
No,
there's
that's fair.
red,
Like when it
which
comes
makes
to
you think of
Starburst,
cough syrup.
if we're talking Starburst, I'm going red.
Oh, oh, pink. Pink, Adam. Come on.
I'm basic, all right?
There's no purple Starburst, or else I'd probably choose purple again.
Yeah, there's not even colors that you can mix. Like, there's not even a blue, and you can mix it with the red.
No. No.
But no, I was thinking yellow. In a jokingly way, I was thinking white because white people always think everything's like super spicy. So I'm like, oh well, at least that one would be bland. So let's go with that one.
Well, yeah.
So those are my answers. I thought yellow for the same concept that you did, where you said purple because of grape. I thought yellow because of banana, but I also thought white. I'm like, I don't think there'd be too much flavor.
Yeah, true.
All right, so we'll close it off for that one for the Wheel of Destiny. Thank you for playing along, and anyone that's here, thank you for still listening. So we'll wrap it up with a couple more questions. But for starters, Brett, what are you most looking forward to this upcoming week? Whether it be tomorrow
This
or
upcoming
days
yeah.
in
So this
life.
upcoming week, it's a big week. I was gonna actually go to the Cardinals Giants game tomorrow, but decided I'm just actually, as I said, I work too much. I decided I was gonna work instead. But we have Odessa is coming into town at Acrisure Arena. I got tickets, got a bunch of friends going. I love Odessa. I've seen them live twice. Fell in love both times. So I'm really looking forward to seeing them live in an arena rather than like outdoor because I think it's just going to sound that much better like enclosed.
The acoustic.
So this upcoming week, I'm definitely saying what I'm looking forward to the most is seeing Odessa live.
All right. So same question, but opposite end of the spectrum. I know I've said that a lot tonight, but what are you dreading most this week?
Uh honestly, kind of dreading my work shift for tomorrow. Because I was gonna go to the login, but on top of that, because I'm not going, rather than doing my normal like 4 or 5 hour bartending shift, they have me doing. Currently, I'm scheduled for an 11-hour shift, which I know it's not going to come to fruition. It's not going to be that whole length, but just sounds terrible. Just working and bartending for 11 hours, so that is probably what I'm looking forward to, or what I'm going to be dreading the most at the moment. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think when I was a server, I think I did like 2 doubles in the full time that I was a server, and I did not like that. Like before that, I worked
Yeah.
standard 8-hour shifts for other jobs, so like a double was basically an 8-hour shift. But man, that's like it's called a double for a reason. Like there's a reason that the usual shift is like 4 or 5 hours and not 8.
Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna be a long one, but it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
That's the
Positive
spirit.
thoughts.
Exactly. All right, Brett. So we'll finish this on a positive thought. Who are you picking for the glorious Mr. Craig Gilmore's Survivor Pool this week for football?
Craig, you're gonna hate me. I know you're a Jets fan.
I know for a fact that even if Craig watched this, he wouldn't get this far into it. So say what you want.
Yeah, but and I mean, never thought I'd say this in my life either. But go Cowboys. Let's go Cowboys. Counting on you, Dak.
Are you counting on Dak or are you counting on Zach Wilson?
Dak, because the Jets defense is still no joke.
Yeah, that's fair. For me, I'm going a bit not wild, but I understand that it's not as obvious of a pick, especially early on. But I'm going for the New Orleans Saints over the. I already forgot who they're playing this week. They played
Carolina.
Tennessee. That's right. They played Tennessee last week, but they did not look good in that game. But with that said, I think that they will be able to have a good game against Carolina this week. So fingers crossed. I was able to split the winnings for the Survivor Pool last year with a similar strategy to this. So as long as I get through the first few weeks and narrow it down to the last like 10 or 12 guys, I feel like I got a shot at it.
Yeah.
But all right, we'll end it there. We'll wrap up. Brett, thank you for tagging along and sticking with us for this long, for an hour and 10 minutes. Appreciate your time and your answers to the randomized questions that we have going on here. Is there anything
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah. Is there anything you'd like to say to the adoring fans or anyone else that you think is listening 71 minutes in?
Kudos to paying attention. Well, maybe you weren't paying attention, but kudos for tuning in and sticking with us this long. And as I believe I mentioned earlier, don't let anyone tell you how to live your life. Live it the way you want.
Yeah, I think we can all agree on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say stay positive. Don't let anyone discourage you. Do what you want to do with your life. Don't let anyone push you one way or the other. But with that said, I will also say, Jeremy, you suck. You're going down this week. So suck it, nerd.
Well said. Well said.
All right. Yeah. Once again, Brett, thanks for sticking around. Anyone that's still listening, thank you for lasting this long. We're going to try to do this once a week. I don't know if Brett will be here every time. He's always more than welcome to, but we're going to try to get other people on as well, whether it be him and Brett and I interviewing them or however it works out. But we're looking forward to it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed what you heard, and we build up a bit of a fan base here and can keep going forward. We're looking forward to it.
Like and subscribe. Share.
Tell
Post.
all your friends.
Yes. Yes. Just cold call people. All
retweet,
of that stuff.
Retweet,
Yeah.
quote, tweet,
Yeah.
X tweet, all that stuff.
Screenshot, and send in emails. Mass text. Do it.
Fax it. Do what you gotta do. Snail mail. We don't care. Just tell all your friends. Tell strangers. Let them know that we're asking for their help.
Tell your friends. Tell your enemies. Yeah. Let them know we're coming.
Who knows? If we're lucky, maybe this show turns your enemies into your friends.
You never know. You never know.
You never know till you try, so give it a try. All right. Thanks for everybody that's watching, which is probably like 0 people, because I don't even know if we're watching at this point. But thanks again. Have a great night. And we appreciate everyone that stuck around.
Take
Talk
care,
to you guys.
y'all.